Hey darlings. Igor never blamed his father for the fact that he, having position, power, and money, gave him almost nothing. The boy was raised strictly. I studied at a regular school. Although with my father's millions, I could have enrolled in some elite educational institution. Igor never intended to stand out among others, among his peers, colleagues, and then among his colleagues. He did it alone. I didn't even think about the fact that I could take advantage of my father's protection. He didn't want to take advantage of someone else's position. I wanted to live life alone. This is how Igor's fate unfolded. Everything is like everyone else. A local university, where he studied honestly, entered on his own, and then practiced. But even here the father did not want to help his son, sending him to do an internship in general. Was Igor upset that he was not lucky enough to become a student at a foreign university? No. He also didn't want to shine in his current place of work. No one knew that their new employee was the son of the company owner. Even though they had the same surnames, Igor didn't want any other special treatment from his colleagues. Igor knew what motivated his father's behavior. Like, this is how a real man's character is tempered. Perhaps this is exactly what Igor thought, but he did not contradict him out loud, just like his mother, the shy and intelligent Anfisa Petrovna. She did not dare contradict her husband. He was in charge of everything in their lives. She was not involved in her husband's business, and all important decisions were entrusted to the head of the family. In general, it is strange that such different people could get married, but fate, apparently, had its own plans for this. After graduating from university, 25-year-old Igor immediately started working. That was his character. He didn't want to sit still and sit on his parents' neck. And then, one ordinary day, Lida got a job at the company. The girl from whom the light seemed to emanate. She replaced a long-serving cleaner after retiring. This job was not at all suitable for Lida. She is beautiful, young, but her fate is difficult. I grew up in a poor family, and now the situation is even worse. Her mother is sick. Lida had no father. Such beauty immediately attracted the attention of the women in the office. They began to discuss the matter and, as always, found something to laugh about. However, this didn't last long. For Igor, Lida's arrival at the company became a real ray of light, a breath of fresh air. He liked the girl. Young people began to communicate. There was only one thing that bothered Igor. He is the son of a millionaire and works as a simple manager. As much as the guy wants to protect his personal life and leave it unknown to everyone, his father discovers his son's relationship with the coach. Valentin Artyomovich is a categorical and strict person who leaves no room for other people's opinions. Despite his impenetrability and thick skin, Valentin realized that something unusual and new was happening to his son. Without hesitating for long, the father began to ask Igor about the details of his personal relationships. He's not used to beating around the bush. It's his rule to say everything up front, directly. Valentin Artyomovich is used to controlling absolutely everything, not only what happens with his business, but also with his relatives. To talk to his son, Valentin Artyomovich called him for a consultation, even made an appointment, which he informed him about through his secretary. Knowing his father's coldness and emotional distance, Igor entered the meeting sweating profusely. The guy was smart and guessed what the conversation would be about. Many dreams in Igor's life were destroyed by his father. Many important moments had already been ruined by his father, who didn't mince his words and was often so direct and careless with his words that it hurt the boy's soft heart. "Dad, this is Lida." Igor suddenly swallowed the air that rose in his throat and said enthusiastically, "Why are you mumbling as always?" growled the father, looking up but still not lifting his head. It seemed rude and even intimidating. For the first time, Igor became worried not only about himself, but also about his and Lida's common happiness, present and, possibly, future. A resounding silence fell in the room. At these moments, Igor always wanted to run, jump from the highest cliffs, explode with resentment and indignation. Anything, just to not be close to his father, who simply exuded hatred. "You are crazy?" Breaking the silence, Valentin Artyomovich growled with a piercing scream. At that moment, Igor was already sweating so much that it seemed to him that he was wet from head to toe. This happened millions of times, but it seemed impossible to get used to it. An adult, tall, with slanting shoulders, but despite all this, Igor at these moments felt like a boy. "Do you need girls? So call an escort and let a high-class lady come to you. Don't chase every skirt. Besides, it would be something that would be worth it. And there's still the coach," Dad shouted to the entire office. How many thoughts were spinning in Igor's head at that moment, only God knows. Now he was also afraid that Lida would hear her father's hysteria. Lida, the boy's thoughts shone with a soft glow. Beloved. Perhaps this was the only thing that now warmed him and helped him endure his father's antics. Igor grew up, and his father had less and less influence over him. Valentin Artyomovich failed to influence him. Young people continued to communicate. Moreover, their relationship became stronger, and the guy was even ready to propose to his beloved. The father discovered this by assigning a detective to his son. He discovered that Igor was looking for an engagement ring. Although the case was extraordinary, the businessman did not give up so easily. "I decided to risk everything and tell everyone that Igor is his son." This news shocked no one as much as Lida. "What? Were you deceiving me? Did you want to play with me?" Lida shouted, crying. "Honey, let me explain everything." "Nothing needs to be explained. I'll give up tomorrow, and you'll never see me again." The next day, there were not one, but 2 resignation letters on the director's desk. The second is from Igor. This was the first time the boy had been so angry with his father. After all, he ruined his personal life. But Igor decided not to stop there. He found his Lida. It was quite simple, because in the father's company file there was a personal file of the girl. When he came to Lida, he saw a sad and unhealthy atmosphere in his house. She was caring for her deeply ill mother. It was worn inside, but clean. "Tampa, understand me. My father is a real tyrant. I didn't want to take advantage of his position to achieve something in life. And when we met, I was embarrassed to admit who I really am," Igor blurted out at once. Since Lida was an understanding girl, she decided to forgive, because she loved, and feelings do not go away. But one person in this story was still outraged, Igor's father. In all honesty, it's none of his business who his child lives with and who he loves. But Valentin Artyomovich was not going to give up so easily and did not want to establish a relationship with his son. He just went even further. "You will not see your inheritance or my help. Igor, you dishonored me in front of the entire company, and this is gratitude for me raising you, giving you everything you need." Even before the wedding, the boy had to move to Lida, where his mother already needed peace. Igor decided not to show up at his father's house to preserve his happiness. Well, yes, but Lida's mother will tolerate it. His happiness is more important. Valia, maybe you can forgive him? He is already an adult. He must decide which life partner to choose. Anfisa Petrovna, worried about her son, decided to talk to her husband. "How dare you contradict me?" Interrupting his wife, Valentin Artyomovich instantly lost his temper. Anfisa understood. Her husband would remain firm until the end. He would never give up, and he would not want to reconcile with his son if something was not as he wanted. Despite the fact that Igor's relationship with his father had completely deteriorated, sometimes they still crossed paths because the boy missed his mother. He stopped to kiss her and exchange at least a few words. Every visit of Igor to his parents turned into a scandal. That happened this time too, but the skirmish took a turn that Igor could not have expected. His father's words came as a real shock to him. What do you allow yourself?" shouted Valentin Artyomovich, blushing. "Yes, you are really adopted." And again there was a pause in the room, which made Igor feel nauseous. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "What are you saying, father?" changing his tone, Igor said uncertainly. "Yes, because he married your mother when she was pregnant. I betrayed someone and I, an idiot, regretted it, but, apparently, in vain. I gave you my surname, and you pay me with this coin." Igor slowly sank into a chair. His gaze seemed to disappear. He couldn't understand what was happening, but after a second everything seemed to clear up in his head. "Then that's it. You are not mine." An epiphany passed. Igor did not say how much time had passed since then. His life was slowly improving. No one irritated him or gave him impossible ultimatums. The only thing that bothered him was that he barely communicated with his mother. One day, returning home, Igor saw respectable people in suits and ties in front of him. Before he had time to think about anything, he heard, "Igor Valentinovich, what do you need?" "We are representatives of Method International. For some time you worked in your father's company and performed well. We would like to offer you the position of head of the sales department." One of the businessmen made a prepared speech. Igor knew that Method International was a competing company. This means that they already knew about his disagreement with his father. Stopping to think, Igor agreed to the proposal. Why not work? And the money is good, he thought. The future mother-in-law is often sick and medicine is not cheap. Then Igor got a job in a new company. Repeatedly, he was faced with the choice of whether to incriminate his father or not, especially as this opportunity was frequently presented. But the answer was always negative. There was no rot in the guy's heart. Not overdoing it, it turns out, is also a path to success. Igor worked honestly and unselfishly, and everything worked out in his family. They had a wedding with Lida, and a magnificent one. Fortunately, the new salary allowed it. And soon Lida informed her husband that the family was expecting a new addition. One day, Igor's cell phone rang with a kind of alarm bell. Even before he picked up the phone, he immediately felt something was wrong. "Son, your father is sick. The business went into decline. There are only piranhas, only traitors. There is no one to trust," lamented the mother on the phone. On the same day, the guy knocked on the door of his house. Now he no longer felt the cold sweat running through his body. He was calm and confident. He achieved a lot on his own, without his father's help. When he entered the house, he smelled medicine. Something familiar pierced his heart. Despite his father's bad attitude towards him, he raised and raised him. Igor entered the room and saw his tormentor lying on the bed. He slowly but confidently walked over and sat down on a chair next to him, taking his father's hand. Tears appeared in Valentin Artyomovich's eyes. He looked at his son, as if trying to beg his forgiveness, but he couldn't say a word. His pride was so suffocating. "I forgive you, father," Igor whispered softly. Valentin Artyomovich burst into tears. Evaluating people alone, he could not even imagine that his son, whom he had so offended, would come to him in the last days of his life. Igor looked and looked at his father. There was a lump in my throat. After sitting like that for some time, he said, "Dad, sell the business and live with your mother with this money. Don't think I came to ask for an inheritance. I do not need this. I have everything I need. With the money raised from the sale of the business, you will be able to live in peace with your mother. There will be a good amount there. And I have my own destiny. I'm happy."